The evening was cold, gray, and full of rain. The streets of Mapletown were almost empty. Only a few cars passed now and then, their headlights shining through the heavy drops falling from the dark clouds. On one corner, under the broken roof of an old grocery store, stood a thin boy named Ethan Miller. His clothes were wet and torn. His shoes had holes, and his fingers were shaking from the cold. In his small hands, he held a few newspapers, hoping someone might stop to buy one. Ethan was only 16, but life had already taught him what struggle meant. His father had left when he was a child, and his mother worked long hours at a laundry shop just to keep food on the table. Most nights, they shared a single bowl of soup and a few slices of bread. But Ethan never complained. He always said, "One day, Mom, I'll make things better for us." That day, business was terrible. Nobody wanted to stop in the rain. The few people who passed by were in a hurry, umbrellas covering their faces. Ethan's stomach growled, but he didn't have enough money even for a sandwich. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "Just one more customer, please." Suddenly, his eyes caught something across the street, an old lady struggling with heavy grocery bags. Her umbrella had turned inside out because of the wind. Groceries began rolling down the wet sidewalk: apples, bread, and a milk bottle. Without thinking twice, Ethan dropped his newspapers and ran through the rain. Cars splashed water on him, but he didn't care. He rushed to help her. "Ma'am, let me help you," he shouted through the rain. The old lady looked up, surprised but relieved. Her silver hair was soaked, and her hands were trembling. Ethan picked up her groceries one by one, careful not to let anything fall again. He fixed her umbrella, lifted the heavy bags, and walked beside her. She smiled weakly. "Thank you, young man." "You didn't have to." Ethan replied, "It's okay, ma'am. I couldn't just watch you struggle." She looked at him for a moment, noticing his wet clothes and empty hands. "You must be freezing," she said softly. "Come with me, my house is just around the corner." Ethan hesitated. He didn't want to bother her. But before he could say no, the old lady insisted. "Please, it's the least I can do." They walked slowly together through the rain until they reached a small white house at the end of Maple Street. The light in her window glowed warmly, and the smell of cookies filled the air. Ethan felt like he had stepped into another world, one filled with comfort and kindness. Inside, she asked him to sit by the heater. She took his wet jacket and handed him a towel. "My name is Mrs. Thompson," she said with a smile. "And you are?" "Ethan, ma'am." "Ethan Miller," he replied shyly. Mrs. Thompson poured him a cup of hot tea and placed a few cookies on the table. "Here, eat. You look hungry." Ethan hesitated but then took a small bite. It tasted like heaven, warm and sweet, something he hadn't had in weeks. "You remind me of my grandson," Mrs. Thompson said softly. "He was about your age when he passed away. You even have the same kindness in your eyes." Ethan didn't know what to say. He just looked down and nodded respectfully. After a while, he stood up. "Thank you, ma'am, but I should go now. My mom will be worried." Mrs. Thompson nodded. "I understand, dear." Then she took out her purse. "Here, take this. It's not much, but maybe it'll help." Ethan quickly shook his head. "No, please. I didn't help you for money." Her eyes softened. "You're a good boy, Ethan. Kind hearts never go unrewarded, remember that." Ethan smiled, said goodbye, and stepped out into the rain again. The storm had started to calm down, but his heart felt strangely warm. As he walked back toward his small apartment, he kept thinking about her words, "Kind hearts never go unrewarded." He didn't know why, but those words felt important, like they carried some secret meaning for his future. When he reached home, his mother was sitting near the window, mending old clothes. "You're soaked," she said, rushing to get a towel. Ethan laughed. "I'm fine, Mom. Just helped someone today." She smiled gently. "That's my boy." He told her about Mrs. Thompson, how she offered tea, cookies, and kindness. His mother listened quietly and then said, "Always remember, Ethan, what we give to others finds its way back to us." That night, as Ethan lay on his small bed, the rain tapping on the window, he couldn't stop thinking about the old lady's face. Her kind eyes. Her gentle smile. And those words that echoed in his mind like a whisper from fate. Kind hearts never go unrewarded. He didn't know then, but that single rainy night, that one simple act of helping an old lady, would change his life forever. The storm outside finally stopped, and the moonlight shone faintly through the clouds. Ethan closed his eyes, unaware that destiny had already started working quietly, setting in motion a story that would one day surprise him in the most beautiful way. The years passed, and the little boy who once sold newspapers in the rain had grown up. Ethan Miller was now 20 years old, still poor, but full of dreams. He lived in a small apartment with his mother on the same quiet street where he once met Mrs. Thompson. Time had faded many things, but not the memory of that rainy evening. He could still remember her warm smile and her words, "Kind hearts never go unrewarded." Those words became his strength. Every time life pushed him down, they pulled him back up. Ethan worked many small jobs. In the morning, he cleaned cars at a service station. In the evening, he worked as a waiter in a small diner. And late at night, when everyone else slept, he studied by the weak yellow light of a second-hand lamp. He wanted to become an engineer, not just to earn money, but to build things that made life better for people like his mom. But life was hard. Bills piled up faster than his income. Sometimes, they didn't have enough money for rent. Sometimes, his mother went hungry so Ethan could eat. Still, she never stopped encouraging him. "Keep studying, Ethan," she said every night. "You're meant for more than this." Ethan would nod, though his eyes often filled with worry. "I just wish we had a little more time, Mom. I'll make it one day, I promise." One afternoon, after his car washing shift, Ethan sat on a bench near the bus stop, exhausted. His hands were rough from soap and water, his shoes muddy, and his back aching. Next to him sat his friend Jake, who worked with him at the garage. Jake laughed and said, "Man, you work too hard. Why don't you just give up on that study thing? Nobody gets out of this place." Ethan looked up at the sky and smiled faintly. "Someone once told me kind hearts never go unrewarded. Maybe if I keep doing the right thing, something good will happen." Jake shook his head. "Dreamer," he said with a grin. Ethan laughed softly. "Maybe. But dreams are all I've got." That night, Ethan came home and found his mother sitting quietly by the window. There was a letter on the table. "What's that?" he asked. She handed it to him with trembling hands. "It's for you, Ethan." He opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a letter from Ohio State University. His heart raced as he read it. "Dear Ethan Miller, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted into our School of Engineering." Ethan froze. His mother gasped. "Ethan, you did it?" He couldn't believe it. He had been accepted into one of the best universities in the state. Years of studying at night had finally paid off. But as his eyes moved down the page, his smile slowly faded. Tuition fee, $18,000 per year. He looked at his mother. $18,000, Mom. We don't even have 100. His mother's face softened. "We'll figure something out, Ethan. Don't lose hope." He nodded, but deep inside, a cold fear grew. That night, as he lay in bed, he whispered to himself, "Why does success always feel so far away?" Days turned into weeks. Ethan tried applying for scholarships, but none came through. He went to banks, But no one trusted a boy with no property, no savings, and no father. Still, he refused to give up. Every night, he sat at his desk, reading his books, praying that somehow life would open a door. But it didn't. Not yet. One Sunday morning, Ethan went to his favorite diner for a cup of coffee before work. He liked that place not because it was fancy, but because it was peaceful. He sat near the window, staring at the rain outside, the same kind of rain he remembered from years ago. The waiter, a young girl named Lily, came to take his order. "Bad weather, huh?" she said with a smile. Ethan nodded. "Yeah. But rain brings memories." "Good ones?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Maybe both." Lily walked away, and Ethan continued staring out the window, lost in thought. That rainy day long ago had changed something inside him. But he never saw Mrs. Thompson again. He wondered if she still lived in that small white house at the end of Maple Street. He thought about visiting her to thank her properly, but before he could, life got busier, and time slipped away. A few months later, tragedy struck. His mother fell ill. Her health got worse with each passing day, and the medical bills drained what little savings they had. Ethan worked double shifts, but it wasn't enough. One night, sitting beside her hospital bed, he whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom. I wanted to give you the life you deserved." She smiled weakly. "You already did, Ethan. You gave me hope." Those were her last words before she passed away. Ethan was broken. He buried her quietly, alone, with only a few neighbors attending the funeral. For weeks, he stopped studying. He stopped dreaming. He just went to work and came back to an empty room. But one evening, he found something that brought back his old fire, a small note taped to his mother's photo. It was written in her handwriting. "Keep believing, Ethan. Kind hearts never go unrewarded." Tears filled his eyes. He sat quietly for a long time, holding that note, and whispered, "Okay, Mom. I'll try again." He decided to keep working and save for college, no matter how long it took. But fate, the same fate that once brought him to Mrs. Thompson's doorstep, was already moving again. Somewhere, someone was about to remember the kindness of a poor boy who helped an old lady in the rain many years ago. And that memory would soon change Ethan's life forever. Months passed since Ethan Miller had buried his mother. Life had become a quiet routine of work and survival. Every day, he woke before sunrise, cleaned cars at the service station, delivered groceries for extra money, and studied whenever he found a free moment. Though the world felt heavy on his shoulders, Ethan never forgot the words that had guided him through life: "Kind hearts never go unrewarded." Little did he know, that very lesson was about to show its power in a way he never expected. One gray morning, Ethan was working at the diner, scrubbing tables and refilling coffee cups. The air smelled faintly of fried eggs and fresh bread. It was a slow day, with only a few regulars. Suddenly, the bell above the door rang. Ethan looked up. A tall, elegant woman entered. She wore a long trench coat, and her eyes, bright and kind, scanned the room. There was something familiar about her face, though Ethan couldn't place it immediately. She walked up to the counter and asked politely, "Are you Ethan Miller?" Ethan froze, a sponge still in his hand. "Yes. I am. Can I help you?" The woman smiled gently. "I'm glad I found you. My name is Clara Thompson. I knew someone you helped years ago, someone who always spoke of you." Ethan blinked. Something clicked in his mind. "Mrs. Thompson?" he asked cautiously. Clara's eyes softened. "Yes. She passed away last month, but before she did, she made sure to leave something for you." Ethan's heart started pounding. His hands trembled slightly. "Something for me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Clara said. She reached into her bag and handed him a thick envelope. She wanted to reward your kindness. She never forgot the day you helped her in the rain. Ethan took the envelope, confused and nervous. He stepped aside to open it. Inside, there was a neatly written letter and a small set of papers. The letter read, "Dear Ethan, if you are reading this, it means you remembered our day in the rain and you kept your heart kind. I cannot be there to see the life you will create, but I have done what I can to help. Use this wisely, and remember that good hearts always find a way. With love, Mrs. Thompson." Ethan's eyes widened. He carefully looked at the papers underneath the letter. It was a college scholarship fund, covering full tuition for Ohio State University's School of Engineering, the very school he had dreamed of attending. Tears blurred his vision. He could hardly breathe. I don't understand. She remembered me." Clara nodded. "She never forgot the boy who ran into the rain to help her. She wanted to make sure you had a chance at the future you deserve." Ethan held the papers tightly, his legs trembling. The room felt suddenly brighter, and for the first time in years, he felt hope bloom in his chest. "Thank you. I don't even know what to say," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "You don't need to say anything," Clara said softly. "Just promise me you'll honor her kindness. Make your life count." Ethan nodded, speechless. The memories of that rainy night, long ago, came rushing back: the cold, the fear, the warmth of her smile, and the cup of tea that had comforted him like nothing else. It was amazing to think that one small act, helping a stranger in the rain, had brought him to this moment. He realized something powerful: life often comes full circle, in ways no one expects. That evening, Ethan went home with the scholarship papers clutched tightly in his hands. He sat by the small window in his apartment and stared out at the quiet street. The rain had stopped, and the sky was painted with soft orange and pink hues from the setting sun. He whispered to himself, "Mom, we did it. She did it for me. Kindness, it really comes back." For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt true relief and joy. The impossible dream he had carried for years was suddenly within reach. The path to becoming an engineer, to making life better for others, was finally opening. But Ethan also knew that life wasn't just about receiving, it was about giving back. He remembered all the children he had seen hungry, the people struggling in his town, and the countless acts of kindness that often went unnoticed. He decided then, silently, that he would never forget to help others, just like Mrs. Thompson had helped him. The next morning, Ethan went to the scholarship office to complete the paperwork. Every step he took felt surreal. Every face in the office seemed blurry because all he could think about was that one rainy night, the moment that had changed everything. Clara had promised to stay in touch, and she did. Over the next few weeks, she guided him, helped with applications, and even shared stories of Mrs. Thompson's life, a woman full of kindness and generosity, whose simple act of being remembered would echo through Ethan's life forever. Ethan knew one thing clearly: life had given him a second chance, a real opportunity to change his destiny. And deep inside, he felt a quiet excitement. This was only the beginning. He whispered to the empty room, "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. I won't waste this chance. I'll make you proud." Little did he know, the next chapters of his life would not only transform him but also touch countless others, a ripple effect of one small, selfless act from years ago. The first day of college felt like stepping into a new world for Ethan Miller. The Ohio State University campus was huge, with tall buildings, green lawns, and students laughing and talking everywhere. It was a place he had only ever dreamed of, and now he was walking its paths with a scholarship that would make his dreams real. Ethan carried his backpack carefully, filled with books he had saved for months to afford. His heart was racing, but he remembered Mrs. Thompson's words, "Kind hearts never go unrewarded." That thought gave him courage. In class, Ethan felt nervous. Many of the students came from wealthy families, with expensive laptops and new clothes. Ethan wore a simple shirt and old shoes, but he didn't let that stop him. He focused on learning, asking questions, and never missing a chance to study. His professors noticed him quickly. Ethan had a natural curiosity and a determination that was rare. He stayed late after lectures, using the library as his second home. While other students went out on weekends, he stayed in his small dorm room, reading, solving problems, and working part-time jobs to support himself. Despite the challenges, he felt alive for the first time in years. Every small success reminded him that life could be kind, just like Mrs. Thompson had shown him. Outside the classroom, Ethan also noticed people who struggled, just like he once had. He remembered his own poverty, the nights he went hungry, and the feeling of helplessness when he couldn't help his mother more. One rainy evening, as he walked back from a part-time job at a local cafe, he saw a young boy trying to carry groceries in the pouring rain. His umbrella had broken, and he looked scared. Ethan ran forward. "Hey! Let me help you," he shouted. The boy looked up, surprised. Ethan grabbed the bags, fixed the umbrella, and walked with him to his home. As he handed over the groceries, he noticed the boy's eyes shining with gratitude. Ethan smiled to himself. Just like me, years ago. That night, he thought about Mrs. Thompson again. The memory of her warm smile and her simple act of kindness motivated him. He realized that life wasn't just about studying or earning money, it was about helping others whenever you can. Over the next few years, Ethan's life began to change dramatically. He worked hard, studied harder, and graduated top of his class. He was offered a job as an engineer at a large company, a position he had once only dreamed about while cleaning cars in the rain. But he didn't forget where he came from. He used his earnings to help struggling students, donate to shelters, and fund programs for children who needed education and support. He started small, tutoring kids, buying books for those who couldn't afford them, and volunteering at food banks. Then he grew bigger, starting a foundation that provided scholarships to poor students, just like the one he had received. Every time he helped someone, Ethan remembered Mrs. Thompson's words and his mother's teachings. He realized that kindness wasn't just a gift to others, it was a way to fill your own life with purpose and joy. One sunny afternoon, as Ethan sat in his new office, he looked out at the city. He remembered that rainy day when he was just a boy, helping an old lady with broken groceries. He smiled, thinking how small acts can ripple through life in unimaginable ways. He had achieved success, yes, but more importantly, he had learned the value of a kind heart. His life was no longer just about survival, it was about making a difference in the lives of others. Ethan also kept in touch with Clara Thompson, who often reminded him of Mrs. Thompson's stories and advice. She became a mentor and a friend, guiding him not just in his career but in life itself. One evening, Ethan stood on the balcony of his office building, looking at the glowing city lights. He whispered to himself, "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Your kindness changed my life. I'll make sure it never ends with me." And in that moment, he felt a sense of peace, knowing that one small act of helping someone in need could grow into a lifetime of goodness, hope, and love. Years had passed since Ethan Miller first stepped onto the Ohio State University campus. He had become a successful engineer and philanthropist, known not only for his skill but for his kind heart. Yet, no matter how busy he became, he never forgot where he came from, or the lessons life had taught him. Ethan often reflected on the rainy night when he had helped Mrs. Thompson. That small act of kindness had changed the course of his life. Her faith in him, her generosity, and her words, "Kind hearts never go unrewarded," had become the foundation of everything he had achieved. One crisp autumn morning, Ethan received an envelope in the mail. The handwriting on it looked familiar, yet he didn't recognize it immediately. He opened it carefully. Inside was a letter from a young girl named Emma Thompson, accompanied by a photograph of her grandmother, Mrs. Thompson. The letter read: Dear Mr. Miller, I wanted to thank you. My grandmother, Mrs. Thompson, always spoke of the boy who helped her that rainy day. Your kindness inspired her until her last day. Because of your foundation, I was able to return to school. I want to become a teacher and help children like you helped me. Thank you for keeping her memory alive. Ethan felt tears fill his eyes. The old lady who had once saved him through her belief in kindness was now alive in her granddaughter, a young girl whose life he had unknowingly touched through his own acts of giving. He smiled, whispering softly, It's full circle, just like you said, Mrs. Thompson. Kind hearts never go unrewarded. Ethan immediately wrote back to Emma, inviting her to visit his foundation. A few weeks later, she came with her mother. Watching her walk through the doors, Ethan couldn't help but feel a deep connection, a bridge between past and present, between giving and receiving. Welcome, Emma, Ethan said warmly. I've heard so much about your grandmother. She was truly special. Emma's eyes glistened. She always talked about you, Mr. Miller. I never knew what it really meant until now, how one small act can change a life forever. Ethan nodded. She taught me that life rewards those who show kindness. And now, you are continuing that legacy. As weeks turned into months, Ethan worked closely with Emma. He mentored her, helped her with studies, and guided her as she pursued her dream of becoming a teacher. Every time he saw her smile, he remembered the cold night when he had run through the rain to help an old lady, a night that had changed everything. It amazed him how one small action had created a ripple effect, touching lives across generations. He realized that kindness wasn't limited to a moment, it could echo endlessly, shaping the world in ways people could never fully understand. One evening, Ethan stood on the balcony of his office building, overlooking the glowing city lights. He held a cup of tea in his hands and thought about the journey he had traveled. From a poor boy with torn shoes and an empty stomach to a man who could give back to the world, it had been a long, difficult, yet beautiful path. He whispered softly, Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Your faith in me made all of this possible. He felt a sense of peace, knowing he had honored their lessons. He had worked hard, achieved success, and shared his blessings with others. He had learned the true meaning of life, to help others, to show compassion, and to live with a heart full of kindness. Emma later stood beside him, holding a stack of books for children in need. Mr. Miller, she said, I want to teach kids that even small acts can make a big difference, just like you and Grandma taught me. Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. You're going to change many lives, Emma. And you'll keep the circle of kindness alive. As she walked away to distribute the books, Ethan looked at the horizon and thought about the old rainy night that had started it all. He realized that life was not about wealth, fame, or power, it was about the small, selfless acts that could create a better world. And in that moment, he knew the legacy of kindness would continue, a ripple that could never be stopped. The story ends with a quiet, heartwarming message. One act of kindness can change a life, maybe even yours. Never underestimate the power of helping others. Ethan smiled, knowing that his journey, started by a rainy day and a simple choice to help, had created a life full of hope, love, and endless possibilities.